Okay, so it is Sunday, August 6th, 2023, and I thought I'd talk today about states. And I have a particular model around states that's unique that I haven't heard anyone else teach before. But the idea of states in NLP is an interesting category. It's a broader category than emotions. We tend to think of states as emotions like anger, anxiety, joy, happiness, peace, confidence. But it's even broader than that. So a state is really a way of being. And we're always in some sort of state. At any given time, you're alert or asleep, confident or shy, anxious or peaceful, whatever it is. Your body mind system as a whole is always in some sort of state. It's always in some sort of way of being. And now we tend to think that states are just things that happen to us because they happen automatically, like emotions, right? You wake up in the morning, you just feel a certain way. You didn't have to practice that; it just happened automatically. So most people who are not in the hypnosis or neuro-linguistic programming game tend to think that states are something totally outside of your conscious control. Now, while we don't have direct control over our state, we do have indirect control or influence over our state. For example, one of the things that crosses the conscious and unconscious kind of barriers is breathing, right? We all are already breathing all the time if we're alive. And if we slow down the breath deliberately, take some deeper breaths, that changes our state very quickly. Or we can even do the opposite. There are breathing techniques that involve rapid breathing, like the Wim Hof breathing method or the breath of fire from Kundalini Yoga or various things like that. That will also change your state, get you more energized and alert. So we can clearly affect our state by breathing, but we can also affect our state by what we think about and where we place our attention, right? So this is one reason why every week here we focus first on 3 things that went well in the past week. Why do we do that? Well, we're directing our attention towards certain things that happened. Every week there's things that went well and there's things that didn't go well. Every day, every moment, every year, every life. In the world itself, there's things that are going well and there's things that are not going how we'd like them to. If we deliberately focus our attention on things that are going well and do a lot of them, even, what does that do to our state? It makes it better, right? We feel happier. We feel proud of what we've accomplished. We feel better about ourselves. We're focused on what we want, and so on. So I call that first aspect of state access. State access, which is your ability to access a state. How do you get into it? Right? How do you access a state in the first place? Now, this could be consciously or unconsciously, but let's assume consciously for now. So let's say there's something you want more of in your life. Think about what that might be. What state do you want to have more of in your life? Could be confidence, could be peace, could be joy, could be curiosity. Pick anything that just sounds interesting to you that you'd like to have more of. Some state you'd like to have more of. And if someone said, I will give you $1,000 if you can get yourself into that state anytime in the next hour, how would you do it? How would you get yourself into that state? I don't control my emotion stuff. I can't do it. No, you can. There's certain ways you can do this. We can use imagination in lots of different ways. Or really, first, we can use memory. Memory is an amazing way to access state. If you've ever felt the state before in your entire life, you could feel it again. How? You can remember a time. Remember a time that you felt this state. Whatever it is, confidence, playfulness, curiosity, joy, peace. If you can remember a specific time and put yourself back into that experience, put that yourself back into that memory as if it's happening now. Then you can feel that way again. Right? Maybe you need to take 5 or 10 minutes to do that. But again, if I give you $1,000 and an hour, you can probably do it with some memory, right? Or maybe more than one memory. But what if you've never experienced before, or your memory's not very good? Then it's impossible, right? It's impossible. No, it's not impossible. There's so many ways to access a state. Another way is imagination. One of my favorite ways to use imagination to access a state is to go out into the future, right? Imagine in the future, you've already figured out how to get into this state. You've already figured out how to get confident or peaceful or playful or happy or whatever it is. Imagine, in fact, it's been so long, you've done this so many times in the past because you're in the future. You've done it so many times that it's so easy for you. You can just step right into it. How do you do it? How do you do it with your body? Every state has a body posture to it. Depression, it's kind of like hunched over, flat face, kind of round your shoulders forward. That really helps. If you go like this and you're like, I'm going to access depression, that's really hard, right? That's not congruent with depression. Whereas victory or excitement or celebration, that would be a better body posture for that. What about breathing, right? Every state has a kind of breathing associated with it. Excitement might be like a fuller, faster breathing, whereas peace, slower, subtler breathing. There's a breath associated with every state. So if you breathe in a confident way, that's going to be different than if you breathe in an anxious way. Right? Different breath. So you can get into a state using breath, using body posture, using facial expressions, using tone of voice. What tone of voice do you use in the state you want to be in? Now, that tone of voice could be in your own mind, in your own head. You talk to yourself in a certain way. If you want to get really anxious, it helps to talk to yourself really fast inside, like this. Oh my God, what's happening? Whereas if you want to calm down, if you talk to yourself in your head like, okay, what's happening now? I'm noticing some things. Then that tends to calm things down. Every state has a tone of voice to it. Isn't that interesting? Now, another way you could access a state is you could pick a model, a role model, someone else who seems to be able to do this. That could be a real person. That could be a person from history. That could be a fictional character, a cartoon character, or someone you make up. So let's say you want to be confident and you pick Barack Obama, very confident speaker. We can do it. I'm trying to do my Obama impersonation. Fellow Americans, I'm talking to you today about confidence, right? So you pick somebody who has the state you want, and you can imagine them being that way, right? Easy to picture Barack Obama confidently giving a speech, whether you like his politics or not, right? You can easily imagine him giving a speech in front of millions of people confidently. So what if you step into being someone who has the state you want in your imagination and become them for a moment? What would it be like to be that person who has the state you want? Using your imagination, that could be a good way to become the state, to feel that state. Now, you're not that person, so you can step out of them, leave what's theirs, and keep the state with you, though. That could be helpful. Another way to access a state is to act as if, to fake it till you make it, but in a real way, like an actor, right? Actors are not doing things in an inauthentic, pretending way, but they are pretending, they're acting, right? So you can act as if you already have that state. And you'll start doing the gestures and the voice tone and the posture and the breathing and the internal dialogue. So there's lots of different ways to access a state, even though we don't have 100% conscious control over how we feel in the moment directly. We can indirectly, through any of these pathways, enter a state that we want to enter, and we can practice it. So that's state access. It's the first of 7 aspects of states. Accessing a state, getting into the state in the first place. Sometimes we have no access at all at first to a state we want. We don't know how to get there. So we have to play with these different ways to get into the state we want. Like if we're learning something new and we're very self-conscious or we're very shy and we want to be confident, it seems a million miles away, but we can start to practice getting into the state at all. Maybe it takes us 20 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour at first. But then we can practice something called state recall, the second aspect of states. State recall, which is how fast and how reliably can you get back into the state? How fast and how reliably can you get back there? So there's certain states, for me, it took half an hour of a hypnotic process to get into the state the first few times, right? Maybe the first 20 or 30 or 40 times I tried to really be confident. In my 20s, I learned to dance. It's not that I couldn't dance. I mean, of course, physically, anyone can dance, right? Anyone could throw their limbs around to the music. But what was really the obstacle was I was very shy. I was very reserved. I didn't want anyone else to see me dancing because I thought they would judge me, right? And then they would laugh at me. But I like dancing. I danced a few times in my life and it was really wonderful. And I wanted to dance not in a choreographed way, but in an improvised way to music. And so I would go out to bars and clubs. We called it Friday night dance therapy. And I'd go out to bars and clubs on Friday night. I didn't drink any alcohol. Everyone else was getting drunk. I didn't drink any alcohol. I was there for the music and for the dancing. But I'd go and I'd get frozen in fear. I'd be like, this music's so good. Everyone's dancing. I want to dance. And I'd just be like, I can't do it. Can't do it. Right. And then occasionally I'd be able to break through, like 1 out of 20 times. I'd be able to break through and I would dance and I'd be having a great time. I'd be like, yeah, it was amazing. Can't wait to do it again next time. Next time I go out and I get frozen in fear again. Right. I had great state access for fear, but I did not have good state access for getting into that flow of dancing and moving and expressing myself. Eventually, it was maybe more like I could go and it would take me 2 hours to warm up, get the courage to start dancing. Right. And I'm like, okay, that's better. I can do it almost every time, but it takes me 2 hours to access the state. What if I could just walk in the door and immediately start dancing? That would save me a lot of time and needless suffering of just sitting there feeling terrible, right? And so I was learning a little bit about neurolinguistic programming at the time. I was learning something called anchoring. Anchoring is a process for increasing state recall. So you can get into a state like that, right? What you do is you associate a cue with a state. A cue is just something you see, hear, feel, taste, touch, whatever, smell. It's a specific thing. And then the state. And it's like, if I see this thing, I'll feel this state. Or if I touch my fingers together, I'll feel the state. Or if I say this word to myself, I'll feel this state. Or if someone says this to me, I'll feel this state, right? It's just an if then. If this, then feel that. That's what anchoring is. And so I decided I want to anchor something. So when I walk in the door of the club I went to, which is called Trilogy, unfortunately not here in Boulder anymore, I go into Trilogy, I'd see the Trilogy sign, I'd walk through the door and I'd immediately be in a dancing state. And I thought, is that possible? I don't know. I'm going to try it. So I rehearsed it in my mind over and over 20, 30, 40 times. And then the next time I went out dancing, walked through that door, music was playing, I was dancing immediately. I didn't have to wait 2 hours to get into the state. And it was just like that from then on. So, state recall is your ability, how fast and reliably can you get back to the state? And we can use mental rehearsal, having a specific cue and a specific state, link them up. So, it just means that. Walking through the door of trilogy means it's dancing time, and my nervous system got it because I practiced it in my mind. So, this is why we also have certain rituals. I know Jess here is now getting deep into shamanism, shamanic ritual, which is a way of getting into states. That's a lot of what it is. That's what hypnosis inductions are too. It's a way of getting into a certain relaxed, focused state where your imagination is more present. So it doesn't have to be instant. It doesn't have to be 1 second anchor. It could be a 10-minute ritual, whatever you want. But you can link things up, and that helps your state recall. So the next thing, the third thing about states, state intensity. State intensity. How intense is the state? You could say 0 to 10. How strong is that feeling? Something we often use in NLP or hypnosis. Now, all states can have an intensity. They could be mild, moderate, very intense. That applies to both positive and negative states, both anxiety and peace, confidence, joy, depression, enjoyment. They all have some intensity to it. Now, we tend to think that intensity is outside of our control. There's nothing to do about it. But that's not entirely true. In fact, it's fun to play with positive states and try ramping up the intensity and turning it down, ramping it up, turning it down, and start to get more control over the intensity of the state. Like right now, let's experiment for just 2 minutes. Right now, think about something that makes you a little bit happy, makes you feel good. That could be a positive memory, could be being in a beautiful place or being with a friend or someone you love. Something that makes you feel happy. Your happy place. And now imagine you have a dial in front of you that you can reach out and grab, and it adjusts the intensity of the feeling. And just try turning it up a notch and then another notch and see like how happy can you be? Yeah. And then turn it down, dial it down, and turn it back up. Even higher, even higher. Feel those feelings getting more intense and turn it back down. Start to play with that. And you can precisely adjust it even to the most useful level. Or you can try to max it out and just see how happy can you be. When you start to play with these things, you get some interesting experiences. State intensity is not as fixed as you might think. Sometimes with clients with anxiety, I'll have them ramp it up. Like how high is it? 0 to 10. It's a 6 out of 10. Can you make it a 7? You go, what? Why would I want to do that? And I say, well, I know you don't want it to be a 7, but can you make it a 7? And they go, yup. Everyone I know with anxiety goes, well, let me see. Okay, yup, done. Like you can't control the state, but you can make it worse. Curious. But that's how it is for us at first, right? We don't know how to turn it down, but we know how to turn it up. Which means unconsciously there's something that we can do to affect the state. We have some control over it. And that beginning point of control allows us to start to figure out where are the knobs and levers in our brain that control these things. Do you have to say something to yourself or do something with your breathing or tense up in a certain way or picture something? You start to learn what those unconscious knobs and levers are that adjust your state intensity. Pretty cool. Now, the next aspects of state, number 4 of state aspects here is the state duration. State duration, how long is that state in time? Is it 15 seconds, 5 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, a day, 10 years? Can you play with the duration of it? It's kind of an interesting thing. This is part of what meditation practice is doing. Get into a peaceful state and extend the duration of that peaceful state for an hour or 2 or 3. What would that do for your life if you could be in a peaceful state whenever you wanted for 3 hours? That would be pretty wild. Maybe that would start to change your baseline experience. Now, you don't have to do that, but it could be a fun thing to play with. Years ago, I anchored a feeling of happiness to these fingers. There it is. And it's like on the verge of laughing. That's the feeling I have when I do that. And I played with it. I was like, I can do that. I can bring it up for instantly. So state recall and access, very good. State intensity is pretty good. How long can I do that for, though? I was just curious. How long can I maintain that state? Like I can even bring it up without the fingers. There it is. I feel this flow of vibrating energy. But could I do that for an hour? And I tried it one day and I was like, yep, did it for an hour. That was a long time to just be on the verge of laughter without anything happening in my life. But it was a nice experience. Do I need to do that every day? No, but I was just curious what's possible. Right? For many years, I did anxiety and depression for hours and hours a day. Right? That felt okay. That's okay to do. But is it okay to feel happy for a full hour? I don't know. There's something wrong about that. Maybe not. Maybe it's okay to feel happy. But you also don't have to. Right? I tried it for an hour and it's like, okay, that was longer than I needed. It's fine. But I don't have to do that. Right? So that can be an interesting thing, playing with the duration. Now, of course, we probably want to decrease the duration of unpleasant states. You can have an unpleasant state for as long as you want. But what if you only had to have it for a moment and you're like, okay, thank you for the information. I'm going to get the message here. Now I don't need the state anymore because I can act on that information. Because, of course, our so-called negative emotions have some purpose too, right? If we're angry, there might be some limit we want to set. If we're sad, there's something we want to connect with or something like that or let go of. So if we get the message, maybe we don't need the duration and intensity to go on for hours and hours and hours or days or months or years or a lifetime. We can just get the message and move on. 3 more aspects of states real quick. One is state flexibility, which is our ability to go in and out of states, different ones even. There's something I'll sometimes do. I call a state walk. Well, I'll go for a walk and I'll play with going between states as I'm walking. So I'll go for a 30-minute walk and I'll say, hey, can I walk and bring up happiness and joy? And of course, I have it anchored to my fingers so I can easily access that. But I can even access that through just thinking about it directly now because I practice that so much. So I'll bring up happiness and joy for a few minutes. I'll let that go and say, hey, can I bring up love and compassion? And I'll try bringing up that for a while. I'll let that go. Can I bring up confidence? Walk confidently. Let that go. Go back to joy. Go back to love. Go back to confidence. Walk peacefully. And I'll just play with it while I'm getting exercise outside. Kind of a fun thing to do. Why not? And one of the interesting things of going in and out of a state and then in and out of another state, in and out of another state, is we start to get the sense that states are like clothes you can put on and take off. They're not who you are. They're not just things that happen to you that you're a victim of. But the things that we can start to develop some choice around, some flexibility around, which gives us the more possibilities. If you actually anchor a few different states on your fingers, And you can just play them almost like musical instruments, going between one or another once every 15 seconds, letting them go, doing another one, letting it go, letting it go, or anchoring them on touches on your body or with words. Or it's kind of a interesting experience. Almost nothing like it. Now, the sixth aspects of states, state frequency. How often do you enter that state? Do you feel happy 10 times a day? Once a week? Do you feel anxious 45 times a day? That's a lot, right? So you might want to decrease the frequency of the negative states and increase the frequency of certain positive states. How often do you experience those? And then the final one is state congruence. State congruence is, do you think, feel, and act congruently? If you think kind thoughts, feel kind feelings, and do kind actions, you're a kind person, right? Congruently. If you think anxious thoughts, feel anxious feelings, and kind of avoid dangerous things, well, then that's more of an anxious person, right? And it's okay. Sometimes we're complex beings. We're all of these things. It's not your any one state. We're all of the states. We all have a full possibility for human experience. But some meditation techniques, for instance, are about feeling loving kindness and thinking kind thoughts and feeling loving kindness. They don't always have a practice of, okay, now go act and do kind things for other people. That would be helpful too. So it's not just a feeling, not just a thought, but actually doing things. And sometimes we're incongruent. We want to have a certain kind of way of being, like kindness, but we also have angry thoughts for the same person that we want to be kind to, right? So then there's an incongruence. So it could be helpful to transform the anger so it's just easy and natural to be kind or compassionate. So there we go. We've got 7 aspects of states. We got state access. Can you get into the state at all? State recall. How quickly can you get it back? State intensity. How intense is it? State duration. How long? All right. Can you get in the state? State flexibility. Can you go between different states? State frequency. How often? And state congruence. Thoughts, feelings, and actions all aligned. So my theory is if you want to develop a trait, one way you could do it is have states into traits. So you could try to access a state. Like if you want to become kind, can you access a state of kindness? Can you recall it quickly? Can you dial up the intensity? Can you be kind for a long time? Can you get out of states of maybe anger or frustration and into kindness very flexibly? Do you feel kindness a lot of times a day? Are you congruently kind? If you can do all of those things, who's to say you're not already a kind person, right? But if you struggle with any of those things, that gives us a way to start thinking about it, where we can do something useful with that. All right, thank you.